Hi, I'm Jessie Heron, host of Rediscover Your Story, a podcast for marketers who need a break from everyday learning, but still want to hear from like-minded professionals on all things creative. Today, we're talking to Brian LeCount. He's bullish on AI, and he's now the Director of Marketing at Health Carousel. Quick call out, make sure to follow us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. And hey, if you want to see our beautiful faces and get more content from Resolve, you can watch this podcast on YouTube. Be sure to subscribe to our channel, like this video, and click the bell to be notified whenever new episodes drop. Let's rediscover Brian's story. Hey, welcome to the podcast.
Good to see you. It's been a while.
It has been a while. We were just kind of talking off camera, and I feel like I do this with a lot of guests is like, let's talk about like how we know each other and where it all came out. But for you, you started ROI marketing, right? And that was, what'd you say, 2003?
03, yeah. After I came out of school, a couple of jobs, and then found myself without one. So started a small agency. Yeah.
That's what you do, right?
That's what you do.
That's what you do. So you're starting out with starting your own business. And I don't think you and I met until probably, I think it was later. But I was in the American Marketing Association. So it's probably like 2005, 6, maybe something around there, maybe.
Yep, maybe something like that.
Yeah. And then knew you pretty well because I was at a small digital agency.
Right.
And I think that, did you know Mark Miller pretty well? Is
got
that
to know
what it
Mark
was?
and his partner,
David. Yeah.
And got to know Joe.
Oh yeah.
And a couple others. Yeah. They did some development work for a few of my clients.
Yeah.
So as I was starting that agency and trying to get that off the ground, we were doing a lot of your basic kind of email marketing, CRM work, SEO work, web development stuff, but we didn't have developers on staff. So USDP became a partner to help us do that work.
Yeah. Well, and then I think it's so cool. So as I was looking through, LinkedIn and looking at your profile, and then even you just sending over your bio, I was thinking like, you really have had quite a career. And I know you're not done yet, obviously, right? We're way too young to be done, but you had this business, you grew that. And as you said before, it wasn't just what you started it to be. It kind of grew and expanded and your services expanded. So talk to me, like, how did you go from I'm running my own show to getting more into this like agency world? How did that all kind of come about?
Yeah, I never really imagined I would get into, traditional agency work, but, I really just started this company to take care of my family, right? It's really what it was about. It was like, what am I good at? I'm a marketer. I have some corporate marketing experience. Maybe I could go do that for other people. Yeah. And just imagined kind of being maybe a little bit more than a glorified freelancer, for people, but the business grew. We found some success, and we had some clients from past relationships, and that kept growing. And all of a sudden, it sort of became a company, right? Yeah. And we hired and had some folks running around. And a couple of years later, you look around and you're like, oh, this is actually a thing. Yeah. So it was great. It was really great, and I learned a ton. We ran that business till probably 2009. I realized that I had probably made every mistake in the small business entrepreneur book,
which is good,
right? Which was really good. It was very educational, and I certainly have a playbook of what not to do if I were to do that again. But I really decided I wanted to work on bigger brands. Yeah, we were working on small to medium sized companies, and I had kind of seen a glimpse of large agency work, and it really drew me to it. And that's when I met the folks at what was then called Bridge Worldwide. Yeah. And so over, I guess, about the next 10 or 12 years, I worked for that agency, and really kind of found myself in my niche in a lot of ways, in strategy for those brands, and focusing on a lot of different types of digital marketing work and consultation for some really amazing people and some great brands.
Well, and I think it's kind of interesting when you think about the Cincinnati landscape and the business community in Cincinnati, and even more narrow than that, if you think about the marketing community in Cincinnati, I feel like we're actually a pretty tight-knit group. No matter if we're at competitor agencies or competitor companies. Like it's a really, I don't know. I think it's kind of an awesome community that we have here in
Small,
Cincinnati.
pretty tight.
It
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
It's
it's
amazing
smart.
though. It's
People are
changed.
smart.
People are really smart. It's
Mhm.
changed a lot over the years, but it's really interesting to me. Like you form kind of your circles, right? And you
Mhm.
get to know certain people. And a lot of those same people are still running around the Cincinnati kind of marketing scene, doing
Yeah.
great creative work.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of fun to see them pop up and, share a piece of work or share a story or something. And it's really great to see that they're still out there,
Right.
kind of doing what they love.
Right. Kicking ass and taking names. And
It's neat to see.
yeah. We had Kevin Dugan on
Oh yeah.
Rediscover Your Story. And he's one that I think about too. Like you just kind of saw him in these different positions or starting Cincinnati social media and just kind of watching him as well. It's just, I don't know. I just think it's fun. I'm a little bit younger than you guys, but I loved sort of watching your careers, just kind of take off. And for someone who was kind of like that, just the next generation, it was really cool for me.
Yeah. And I used to look at his work. I used to look up to him.
Yeah.
When I got to meet him and saw what he was doing, I was really impressed by that. And
Yeah.
I felt like he was a little bit ahead of me. So it was kind of neat to look up to him and try to do some of what he was doing.
He would own that too.
There's only one Kevin though.
There's only one Kevin
Yeah.
Dugan, right? Yeah, no, that's exactly right. So then you go from having your own business, you get into the agency world, you hang out there for 10, 12 years. What were some of the lessons that you learned in agency world? Knowing that you learned a ton when you had your own business, what did you learn when you were in the agencies?
Yeah, it was a really great experience to like figure out how leaders at very, very large companies running giant brands think about their businesses, and what they care about, what they value, what they're trying to accomplish, how they view marketing in the overall kind of toolkit. When you work with some really large global brands, when you work with the brands at Procter, for example, like those folks aren't just marketers; they're general managers of giant businesses. Right. A brand manager at Procter is not just a marketing strategist. They're a GM.
Right. And those are the kind of people that could walk away from P&G and they can run their own company.
Absolutely.
Right. Those are future CEOs.
Absolutely. They are operators.
Yeah.
And so you learn a lot more than just how to evaluate great marketing work from those people. You learn operational excellence. You learn how they view the work that you're doing for them in the grand scheme of the total business, what they expect it to accomplish. You learn like, I can't believe they're spending this much money on this type of work, right? So you really, that was a phenomenal experience to work with, probably a dozen or more Procter brands, and then others at, large companies like Conagra or Nestle brands or Microsoft or Sony and Amazon. And they're all different. It was really interesting. Like the folks at Amazon are very different than the people at Sony versus Microsoft versus Procter.
But if you boil it down, do they all kind of have the same challenges or the same problems that you were going in to solve?
Yeah, it's for the most part.
For the most part?
In a marketing, a consumer product world, right? With marketing as the toolkit that you're involved in, you're all trying to solve a consumer journey, right? You're trying to understand that consumer journey. How do I get to know this person, my customer, and what they go through in their day to day, their lives, their dreams, their cares, their worries, how this product category fits inside of their life. What do they use it for? Why do they choose it? When did they choose it? They're all trying to understand those things. And
then they want to disrupt.
What's the opportunity to disrupt that journey?
Right.
Or, said another way, be a meaningful part of that journey. And sometimes you want to do both of those things at different stages. So they're all trying to figure that out. Right.
Yeah.
And I mean, aren't we all have customers, right? Customers are just people.
Yeah.
We make decisions emotionally, just like everyone else.
Yep.
Even in a B2B world.
I think even more so
particularly
sometimes.
Maybe in a B2B world.
Yeah, it's still H to H, it's still human to human.
To throw out a phrase I never thought I'd say again, there's a path to purchase, right? For just about everything.
Yeah.
And so great marketers have to figure out where do we fit? Where does our product, where does our service fit in that path to purchase? And so that's the thing that they all have in common. They're all trying to figure that out. And it's really gratifying that they turn to really smart people in agencies, great copywriters, great account managers, great strategists, great
Yeah.
creatives to come up with compelling ways to do that.
Right.
And so I really learned to love what I was learning from clients and how they evaluate your work. That could be a little brutal sometimes. It makes you better
Yeah.
when you get sent away from a meeting and everything you worked hard on for a couple of weeks basically sucked
Yep.
in the eyes of the client. And you're
Yep.
like, ooh, okay, learned something on that one.
But there's
Um,
something kind of amazing about criticism, right? If you are willing to lean in and take it, I actually love criticism. I ask for feedback all the time, whether it's positive criticism or just like completely negative, I guess is the difference. But I mean, I always want feedback,
Sure, and it's
right?
part of the process
Yeah.
in a creative in creative fields, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if you look into like some of the way, yeah, I'm not sure how much it's done today, but in years past in the agency world, what was very common is the creative director or the chief creative officer would basically hold office hours, and his or her creatives, would come in and share their work, and they would scrutinize the work,
Hmm.
and some of that could get pretty brutal on those young designers
Sure.
and illustrators and things like that. And but that's how they learned. They got their work thrown out, crumpled up, tossed in the can,
Yep.
told how it was
Yep.
terrible, why it
Yep.
wasn't any good, how to do it better, and that repetitive process really makes them better creatives, better thinkers. And I think the same is true for just about anybody in an agency, a creative field, a strategist. The same is, if your strategy sucks, if it's lightweight, if you haven't really thought through the problem the way the client will, or looked around the corner of what
Yep.
problem your brilliant solution creates,
Mhm.
it's going to come out in the meeting,
Oh yeah.
and that'll make you better.
Yeah.
So I was really lucky. I felt very fortunate to have some great mentors over that period. Some were bosses, some were peers who told me when my work wasn't any good
Right.
and told me
Right.
how to make it better.
Right. Because you were,
And
is it Bob Gilbreth, right? That was,
yeah, Bob actually was the one that hired me initially.
okay. I was going to say
Yeah.
Bridgewell. I mean, that's a Bob.
Bob and Jay
Yeah.
um, and Michael Graham. Yeah,
Yeah.
back in the day.
Yeah.
But that was a really good. It was a wonderful, wonderful experience. I loved every second of it. And we went through a couple of different iterations as an agency. We were
Sure.
Bridge. We became Possible as part
Mhm.
of WPP,
Mhm.
and then eventually we were acquired by Gray and became part of Gray in New York. And that
So
really
you kind
opened.
of survived all those transitions then too. I just realized that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, in the global holding company space, it's common for those holding companies to kind of move the chess pieces around a little
Sure.
bit,
Yeah.
with their agencies, and so yeah, that happened a couple of times while I was there,
Yep.
and each one of those opened up different opportunities, right?
Opportunities.
When you
Yep.
go from
Hmm.
being, a single city Bridge Worldwide to part of a global network that was being built called Possible,
Hmm.
right? You have other offices, and now you're meeting other people, and now you're working on other brands that you wouldn't maybe have worked on just being a Cincinnati agency. And then you become part of Gray. So you tap into New York, and the agency scene there is iconic
Sure.
and many, many decades old.
Your
And
network had to have just like blown up and expanded as far as
yeah,
like people
yeah,
you
it
could
did.
lean on, learn from, look to, kind of riff off of if you needed to, right?
Absolutely. I mean, when we became part of Gray, I ended up taking on some work out of the New York office alongside of some great strategists and creatives there, and I soon learned that I was working with some of the most talented,
Yeah.
awarded creatives in the world at
Yeah.
Gray. I mean, the talent there was extraordinary. And
Mhm.
these are people that routinely brought home Cannes Lion awards, and they have closets full of them,
Right.
right? And
Right.
and it was really amazing to be like, wow, these are the people that produce that kind of work. So
Hmm.
you hang around people like
Hmm.
that long enough, it rubs off, right?
Sure.
You
Yeah.
pick up some things, you learn some
Yeah.
things that are
Especially if you're a
interesting.
lifelong learner,
Yeah.
right? Like, I mean, would you consider yourself a lifelong learner? You had to,
Maybe
right?
reluctantly. I mean,
Right.
you learn things all the time, whether
Sure.
you intend to or not. But
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, sure. So so then you make this incredible switch and you work for Health Carousel.
Yeah.
How the heck do you go from like, yep, I'm going to work on all this brand work with all these top creatives in New York City, right? And then you're just kind of, you're now running the marketing department for Health Carousel. To kind of talk through that and tell us a little bit about, who they are.
Sure. Well, I was since the agency became part of Gray,
Yeah.
I was spending a lot of time in New York and other cities, probably 30, 40 times a year. I was on a plane going to some place. And I loved it. I loved every second of it, but
Sure.
it's not an easy life.
No. You have kids.
I have kids. I have
Yep.
a wife that I intend to hold on to until
Right.
the day I die. And being on an airplane every week and having, the servers at a restaurant or the bartenders say, "See you next week" on your way out. And, or have a drink ready when you walk in because they know you so well, sends a little signal like, gosh, the people in these other cities know me better than some of the people in my own hometown.
Right. But it can wear on you.
Yeah. I mean, I think it was wearing on me, but I loved it so much. I was kind of looking past that. And lo and behold, I was getting off an airplane yet again, and seated behind me and a couple of rows back across the aisle were two of the three founders of Health Carousel, a guy named Bill DeVille and Ty Nelson, who I had already known. And I knew well because 20 years ago, I worked for Bill DeVille. One of my first corporate jobs coming out of school was working at a very, very small healthcare staffing company that Bill DeVille was running. And so Bill...
How Cincinnati is that?
All right. It's absolutely Cincinnati.
Okay. Just have to call that out.
All over the place.
All over the place.
So I worked for Bill in his first healthcare staffing company 20 something years ago. And the goal was grow it fast and sell it. That's exactly what he did. I learned that I should have asked for a little more because they did quite well. But anyway, he taught me a ton. And Bill and I really have enjoyed staying connected with each other ever since. We would end up in the car on the way home from work, and Bill would call and say, "Explain this social media thing to me," or whatever. And so we would do that about once, maybe twice a year. And we've done that for probably 20 years.
That's amazing.
And so just running into them was really great to make that connection again after not seeing them for quite a while. But I'd also done some consulting work when I started my own shop for them. And so he said, "Hey, what are you doing these days?" And I'm like, "Well, I'm on airplanes. That's what and he said, "Come by the office. We should talk. We've got a couple ideas." And here we are. So I probably wouldn't have gotten off the agency train had I not been pushed a little bit or an opportunity came. And I had never, up until that point, 2019, I had never been a CMO.
Right.
And
that's kind of the fun part about your journey. But that's the fun part about your journey. And that's what I was going to ask you about is like, how are you, but you've been prepared for this role. I mean, if you think about it, I mean, you owned your own company. So you had some of these sort of like operational, tools in your toolkit. And then you have these agency positions where you are kind of growing up in an agency, you're rubbing elbows with a ton of great minds. And then this opportunity comes out. I think it's actually like the beautiful story that most people in our field want to have, really.
Maybe. Yeah, it was, I feel really fortunate. I've always kind of said I like to do things that scare me intellectually. And that's the way I felt when I closed down my business and went to work for Bridge. I felt the same thing. I felt I'm about to enter a world of people that are orders of magnitude more talented than I am. That's the way I felt. And it scared me. I really had this question of like, can I do this?
Sure.
Right. And whether I survived or thrived, I made it 10, 12 years there. And so that worked and I really enjoyed that. And this opportunity kind of scared me the same way, which is kind of how I knew it was the right thing for me to go after because I kind of need that. And so it frightened me a little intellectually. I asked myself the same question. Do I have that in me? Can I do that? And here we are. So 4.5 years later, we're rocking and I'm enjoying the heck out of it and learning a ton about a whole different, world of corporate and dynamics and fast growing company and in a space that
has a lot of compassion. right?
Amazing. Yeah. I mean, I used to joke that, or I started to, when I came to Health Carousel and got to really ingrain myself in the team, I was really impressed with all the work that was being done. The marketing team was doing an incredible amount of work, but I was also really impressed with the work of the company,
Mhm.
right? The company has states its purpose as to improve lives and make healthcare work better by ensuring that every patient in the United States has access to a healthcare professional when and where they need them.
Wow.
And there are a lot of people in the world that need access to a healthcare professional. And this company has, over the last 20 years, become a top 15 healthcare staffing company in the US by providing thousands and thousands and thousands of nurses and allied healthcare professionals and physicians into facilities that desperately need them to take care of their patients. And
Right.
the company has a lot of pride in one of its core measures of success that we keep track of, and that is how many patient lives do we impact through our healthcare professionals. And that's a number that is as important to our company as the revenue or the profit line. And we
Yeah.
talk about it and we celebrate it, and that's really grown on me over the last 4.5 years. I used to joke when I came into the company that in my old life, I never really could say I went home at night and felt good that I helped somebody buy another can of Febreze.
Right. La la
Right?
la la la.
It great work, really fun work,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
Or that I had something to do with the fact that, that shopper chose Bounty, right? Or that person used the Amazon Pay
You
service.
weren't saving
I
lives.
wasn't exactly say that, we used to, and we used to joke at that time,
We still
look,
joke.
it's just advertising,
Right.
right? We're not
Right.
saving lives
We're not
here,
saving lives.
right? I know the client's pissed,
It's common for
but we're
many of
not
us
saving lives
to say that, right?
I
Yeah.
can't say that anymore
Mhm.
exactly because the people we put in positions around the country save lives every day.
Right.
And that is really meaningful. It's really touching. And we're in a moment, and we have been in a moment in our country um, where it's desperately needed.
Well, you started right before COVID, maybe? Is that timing right?
I did. I joined Health Carousel in June of 2019.
Okay.
6 months later, we were on lockdown.
6 months later, we're on lockdown. And then you probably had this surge in need for healthcare workers. And so your job probably was kind of like, oh, I'm going to get into this. I'm going to learn the business. And then did it
That's right.
frantically change for you?
It accelerated
Yeah. Like the gas pedal just
considerably.
slammed on.
Yeah, I mean, we went from the nursing shortage in the United States is not new. It's
Right.
been around for 40 years.
Sure.
Right.
It's not an easy job. Honestly,
It's not.
It's not. I have friends who are
It's
nurses.
an incredibly difficult job.
My
It
sister-in-law's
is
a nurse.
the dynamics in a hospital.
Yeah.
Relationships between physicians and nurses and administration and nurses and all those things have always been difficult. And it is it can be a thankless job. But thank God that those people have such a strong calling to do what they do. But yeah, so during, when COVID hit, it was just lights out, accelerate in every way across the business, and so our team, you double and triple our marketing budgets, right? Like
Right.
increase the media spend, increase the video work we're doing,
Because
because we needed to attract
Yes.
more nurses to come do this work.
That's what I was going to say. So what was the goal during that? So you needed to attract the healthcare workers, the nurses
That's right.
to you so that you could help and place them in hospitals,
That's
right?
right.
Is that the connection?
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so we had nurses in thousands of nurses in all 50 states going through the exact same thing that staff nurses in those facilities were going through. Too many patients, forced overtime, absolutely scared to death. It was, the pandemic was hard on everyone. It was
Mhm.
hard on us. It was hard on our families. Or it was especially hard on nurses.
Yeah.
Like really hard on nurses.
And so you're trying to come up with messaging and marketing campaigns to attract nurses to come back into a hospital where they are an incredible, like, danger is not the right word, but they're under an incredible amount of stress. They're dealing with a disease that they have no idea that at the
That
time,
nobody really understood.
no one
Yeah.
understood.
Yeah.
And so how are you messaging to them? Like, what's sort of like you know what I mean? Like, how do you message to a group like that?
Well,
And under such duress?
it was, it really wasn't about like the selling this glamorous role that they were going to have.
Sure.
It was talking to them in a way that was really human
Mhm.
and helping them understand that Health Carousel is a company that will take care of them. And so when you're a temporary or contract nurse that basically picks their life up and moves around the country every 13 weeks,
Mm.
you give up a lot of the support systems that you would have had as a full-time nurse in a hospital, as a staff nurse, right? You don't have a boss per se,
Mhm.
right? You don't have the same consistent peers every day per se, assignment to assignment.
Right. So you're 13 weeks. So you really can't build too much camaraderie. I mean, you can, but then you got to like stop and then do it again.
You might be going to another place, right?
It takes a really special nurse, like beyond.
It
actually.
does. It really does.
Yeah.
And so our company really became the lifeline for these people, right? And we're the ones that are here to support you. We've got your back. If there's a problem in the facility, we will help resolve it with the facility, who's also our client. And so it was really about, these are the ways that Health Carousel supports you. Not so much about like, hey, take our job. It's the shiniest, thing.
Right.
And then as we've kind of evolved through that, I think we're all glad the pandemic is over.
Right.
Nurses are as well. I think the market's definitely normalizing again. There was this 100-year storm right in the middle. And now that that's over, the market can kind of get back to operating the way it always has, which is healthy for everyone and a good break from those few years. But I think really what we're focused on is kind of transforming what we stand for as a company away from just a kind of transactional staffing firm. We have assignments, we have nurses, we match them, everybody does that. And it's not terribly interesting. And so we're really focused on becoming a careers company. We have a kind of an enterprise platform where we're rolling out that's called Careers, not just contracts. And we want to be the long-term employer of choice for temporary nurses and really help usher in and make permanent what the pandemic kind of started. And that was gig work as the way I'll always work, right? Like many other industries have done. It's happened in IT, it's happened in consulting. Many of the folks in those industries don't work for just one person for 20 years. They work on contract assignments and move around all the time, but they've curated a set of experiences over a number of years that's really built up to be a rewarding career for them. And that's exactly what we're putting together for nurses, and giving them back some of the things that they gave up when they left their staff role. We kind of talk to them. So it's all in how we talk to, we talk to them in ways that are about like giving them the freedom to live and work the way they want to. Right. And that is on a temporary basis, but with all of the support and the benefits and the professional development and rewards and things like that, the recognition that you might expect from a full-time job.
Got it.
So that's kind of the way that we message and the way we talk to them.
And talk to me about maybe like tools and tactics. I mean, I think that you've always been the guy who is at the forefront of technology, right? It's no surprise that, I mean, even way back when we knew each other, like I said, pre-wrinkles, you were always like, hey, one of the first adopters of Twitter or early adopter of whatever the next technology was. Talk to me about the adoption, and maybe even talk to me about the thought process between Health Carousel and some of these newer technologies like AI. How is that kind of coming together for you at Health Carousel?
Yeah, I think it can be really confusing. There's not a right answer. I mean, like what technology, what platform is best for, everybody wants to know like, what's the best platform to do X, right? To do this, to accomplish that. The answer is, I don't know.
Right. There could be multiple.
And it might be a really boring one if you go all in on it, right? I mean, you can still do incredible things, putting your money and your effort on Facebook.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah,
Even though for many that feels like the old tired social media network that only folks my age and older still use. We have a large investment in Meta's ad platforms, and it's a meaningful part of our mix, as is uh, uh, Google and other things. But I mean, I think it's healthy to test a lot of things. I think it's interesting to find out, what new, so anytime something new comes out, what you're experiencing is a developer or a creative approaching a problem in a different way.
Yeah.
And it's probably not a new problem. It's probably just a novel way of addressing it. But that's really meaningful. So test that thing.
Right. Right.
I think I have always been a fan of really great creative work, great creative thinking, great strategy, straightforward strategy, nothing too tricky, too complex. It is again, it's really just a consumer journey, right? And so, how fancy do you really want to get in being a meaningful part of that consumer's journey? There's great tools for it and all of that, but at the end of the day, it's just a journey. I've been a fan of great creative my whole career, great strategic thinking my whole career, kind of scrappy growth marketing oriented tactics.
Yep.
And I've also been a huge fan of really great storytelling. And so
Us too.
yeah, evidently, right? And so we put a lot of our effort into storytelling, the kind of docu style.
Yep.
Tell the stories of our nurses.
Yeah.
Right. And we do that in a couple of ways. One of our businesses brings registered nurses and allied healthcare professionals from 60 different countries into the United States. These are people that want to immigrate to the US, that want to, start a new life, bring their family, right? Wonderful people. And they happen to be nurses and healthcare professionals. And our country needs more of those people, right? And so we help them through the whole immigration process, the whole journey of getting to the United States. And it is a multi-year process to do it legally.
Yeah, right.
And so we help them through that entire process. So one of the great opportunities we have is to tell journey stories of people that come from Zimbabwe or come from the Philippines or come from Taiwan or other, countries,
Yeah.
and bring their families with literally only what they're carrying. And they're going to start an entirely new life in the United States as a registered nurse at a facility, put their kids in schools here and become a part of the fabric of the country. And so telling those, we've got some amazing film that we've done on those arrival stories of people that are kind of changing their life and doing their part to change the lives of people in the country. And we also do that for our travel nursing business as well, as a little bit of a different approach. But that work is really meaningful to me because it's not marketing work. It's just letting someone's story come out. Right. It's just talking to them about who they are.
Well, it's such a beautiful connection that you have when you can watch something like that, and then it drives the emotion for you, right?
It
So
does.
whether or not they're your intended consumer, they could be like so compelled to tell somebody else because of that emotional connection that they have with whatever video that you have.
Well, it really taps into the human need to be around people that are like us.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you can have a person tell their story and that the camera just kind of fades into the background,
Absolutely.
right? And their story is coming out, right? Then what naturally happens is others see that work and they're like, that sounds like me. I'm just like that person. If they can do that, then I can do that too. Right. And that's really what it's about. So I love that. I love storytelling. I love video work. And then there's the fun ways of like, how do you chop it up into a bunch of pieces? How do you get scrappy with a lot of what you guys do? It's fun to watch some of the different content formats that are succeeding these days. And, what's blowing up with YouTube shorts and TikTok mania and all of that, is really interesting to watch.
Are you leaning into TikTok?
We've not.
No.
We've not.
Yeah.
Not because we think it's a bad idea, but because for the time being, we are choosing to kind of concentrate our resources, right? And avoid fragmenting across too many platforms.
But that's the smart way to do it. I mean, so many times I talk to people and they come to us and they're like, we have basically pressed the marketing button and our shit is everywhere. And one of the things is like, well, let's reel it all in. Where are you actually getting traction? If you don't have that many impressions on these couple of channels, then let's just move the work to where
Well,
you
it's
are
really
getting
hard
concentration.
it can make it difficult for a number. One, it's at the end of the day, most organizations have some degree of limited resources. You only have so many people.
Sure.
You only have so much budget, and you have to accomplish some very specific, defined goals with that. Everybody's usually got the tried and true things they've always done, and there's some new things they want to try. But if you spread those finite resources across too many things, you're only going to get this far in every one of them. Whereas if you eliminated the number of channels, the number of platforms, the number of things you do, and doubled down on a few of them, you're gonna get farther. And so it's difficult to spread it too far for that reason. And so I'm an advocate of testing new, but when you find something, like, stick with it for a while and avoid spreading the resources too far. It's also hard to maintain, right? I mean, how many social channels should one brand have? And can you imagine the social media team needed for some of these brands that are on literally every channel that exists?
Exactly.
And now that's great if you've got the budget and you really
have the
need
resources,
to be pervasive in culture
Mm-hmm.
but many organizations don't. We certainly don't have unlimited resources, and so we can't be everywhere.
Right.
And we're okay with that.
Right. I think that's perfect. And then, I think too, in healthcare, you're in a healthcare space, you're on a different level, I guess, in healthcare space, but we work with some hospitals, some healthcare systems here locally, and AI has been the biggest conversation. I went to the Healthcare Internet Conference, and every workshop, there was an AI path basically, and people were just clamoring to understand and to learn, how can I implement this in my own marketing toolbox? Have you guys leaned into AI at all? I mean, how is that?
We are.
Yeah.
I think once you get past the initial, everybody reacts a little bit differently to stuff like this. And
They do.
of course you have a lot of people saying, AI is going to take my job and that kind of stuff.
Sure. You have the fear.
There's no question AI is going to eliminate some roles, change some jobs. The way I like to think of it is AI is not going to take your job. The people that use it will.
Yeah.
To get that mundane work you've been doing done faster, better, cheaper than you ever have before.
Mm-hmm.
And to come up with novel ways of creating content that you haven't had before, lean into this all day long. And if you're less busy, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Right.
Spend it on ideating.
You can work on other things.
Right. So how are you using AI?
We love it. Yeah. We are, of course, we are using the generative models for content creation, for developing creative briefs, for setting up project kind of charters, developing both long form and short form content. We will import content into it and ask for summaries and bulleted lists and, all that kind of stuff that I think are some of the most common ways that it's being used. Creative development, we're testing out, there's some great tools that are implementing that and plugins for creative development. The video's not quite there for us yet. No. We're not seeing it be compelling enough. But things like auto-generating captions for your videos,
sure.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Auto-generating the transcripts, amazing.
Yeah.
Putting in a really great asset and getting some cut downs, right, of it. We're testing some of that. It's okay. It's not perfect, but there might be some use cases where perfect isn't needed.
Right. It's a great starting point.
It really is.
Yeah.
I'm really bullish on it, and I'm excited about where it's going to go. We also have a technology team that has done some work to kind of build our own models, and so working on how do we build a language model that allows our employees to kind of talk to the organization and get answers.
Yeah.
Right. I think AI is going to eliminate things like corporate intranets. Right.
Well, let's hope so.
I think because really what is a corporate intranet? It's just a knowledge base.
It's just,
Well, an AI tool is going to consume that knowledge from where it exists and just answer employees' questions. Right. There's no more, there's no more searching for information and then mining through lists of pages to see if the answer's there. It's just AI is just going to answer the question.
It's going to answer your question.
Right? And
yeah.
so I'm really excited about it. We keep testing. There's too many tools for us to test.
Do you
Right.
have like,
So,
I actually sometimes have to just stop myself, like don't have AI tool FOMO,
right.
right? Because you see
There's hundreds and hundreds.
yeah,
Yeah.
Kendra Ramirez, she and I talked about this, and they actually have an AI meetup in Cincinnati now where, I mean, I think the first one was just maybe 15 people. Now it's like 150 people
Yeah.
that show up. And she had mentioned that, I'm going to get the numbers probably wrong, but somewhere in like years that digital marketing kind of came out, there was maybe 1,000 tools a year that came out for digital marketers. Now with AI, it's about 1,000 tools a month, maybe.
I believe it.
Maybe a week. I mean, somewhere in that range.
Directionally, it's probably accurate. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many tools. And so how do you get to the point where you're like, okay, our team is going to lean into this tool. And then you kind of you don't want to put blinders on because you want to be aware of the other tools that are out there, but you kind of have to spend time on the one tool to see if it's working.
You do. And you also have to spend time on fewer tools because it's also teaching you how to think differently. It's teaching you how to work differently. It's really, I mean, there's plenty of time to find other tools. There's going to be, the next 10 years, there's going to be a continued explosion of tools and a rapid consolidation of tools. Because really what's happening is a lot of these developers are doing what other smart developers are doing, and that is take the open source generative model and put a wrapper on it that does what they want to get done. Maybe it's SEO, right? So maybe they want to use the generative model to create keyword lists and metadata and content predominantly that would score high in an SEO audit, right? And so that's their wrapper is SEO.
Right.
Another's wrapper is article development, just content, blog, right? So it's all based on like the same type of model,
the same foundational
model.
model.
That's what these explosion of tools is really all about. And so just pick one, pick Jasper, use OpenAI. Just like it doesn't really matter. But I think what's interesting is using the tools is teaching all of us how to think and work very differently because we're not used to this. And that's as important to me as the tool itself. And I think we'll probably all change tools 5 or 10 times in the next couple of years anyway.
Yeah, I think so too. And I definitely have found where it has created so many efficiencies, even within our own organization or within my own, like how I work day to day.
Yep.
I mean, you get on a client meeting on Teams and it's like taking notes for you, right? I mean, it really is.
It's amazing.
It's oh, here's the topic. Oh, here's who said this or here's who said that. So you're no longer like frantically, okay, let me listen and let me take notes. You just listen. That's all you have to do is just listen. Yeah. I mean, I'm all in.
Yeah. I'm pretty geeked out on it. Myself, we had a situation where we were putting a piece of our business up for bid and we were going to RFP it.
Who wants to create
an RFP? How many
people
people want to write an RFP?
Oh my God, Brian, seriously.
And we had it done in about 8 minutes with an AI tool, and it was phenomenal, right?
Yeah.
And it helped us put the business out and secure a great partner. And
and how long would that have taken before AI?
Hours.
And then you have a committee of people who want to review it and have their input, and you're like, we're done.
So it's really great that we're moving past that into a space where you can get really smart people and great thinkers doing that work and let these tools create for you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Get you 70% there.
It does get you. Yeah. We were trying to think of a work from home policy and let's just put it in and figure out what AI tells us what to do. And then you can tweak it. And then you tweak it kind of in the moment within the tool. Like, actually I want it to say something more like this. And then you just keep kind of training it. And I love too, that you can say, hey, you are a digital marketer working at a video agency and you are talking about this topic. You're just like molding it the whole time. And it's going to get really smart.
That's the most interesting thing to me.
I think it is too.
When you talk about like using the tools are teaching you how to work differently, it's really the magic is in the prompting.
Yes.
And how you're preparing the model to give you what you want. Because like if you think back, it's probably only a year and a half ago that I started messing around with
Yeah.
some of this.
Yeah. Mhm.
Think about like,
Yeah.
what was my first prompt, right?
Right.
It was probably such a
Right.
silly, like, write an email
Yeah,
to
exactly.
write an article that does this, and then you
Right.
got back and it was so bad,
Right.
right? And you're like, you know what, this AI
This isn't
stuff
going to
sucks,
work. Yeah.
right?
This is going to
This is
suck.
garbage.
Hmm.
But then it started to come out, and you started to see others really talk about and show you how you could really prompt these tools in a much more comprehensive way. And when you're telling it, you are a this, you're a that, right? You're an expert in, right? You're actually building the expert right there live,
Your own
right?
SME.
Right. And then now it's prepared to give you what you need
Yeah.
at a pretty high level of quality.
Yeah.
So I really think like learning how to prompt, learning what the tips and tricks of how to do that is where the magic is.
I think so too. And it's so funny when you talk about it with the fear-based people.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, now you're just creating a robot that's going to take your job. No. It's going to be smarter than you. I hope so. I mean, like, right? Like you want to surround yourself by really smart people anyway. So might as well create my own little smart.
Yeah, I think we're just in this moment, if you go back decades into the past, and you like history kind of repeats itself. There were people at the beginning of the Industrial Revolution that said
Yeah.
that the combustion engine was going to cause massive unemployment, right?
Mm-hmm.
It was going to take jobs, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And what it's done is created jobs.
Yeah.
Millions of them, right?
Mhm.
And some of those jobs were different than the jobs that were being done before the Industrial Revolution.
Right.
But the same thing is going to be true, with this. AI is going to, quote unquote, take jobs. It's also going to create an incredible number of jobs and opportunities that are tangential to what a marketer might be doing today. So we all just need to grow. We all
Yeah.
just need to evolve.
Right.
There'll be jobs for us. Right.
Right. And if you just want to hang on to someone's hand, I think Brian and I are willing to hold your hand and bring you along with us, I
Sure.
guess. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Get on the train. We'll hold
Use
on
these
to you.
tools. It's going to make you better.
Yeah. It's going to make you better.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what should we be excited about with you? What's next for you?
What's next for me?
Yeah.
Well, I am really enjoying life right
Good.
now. I mean, I have 3 wonderful kids that are growing and will be out of the house. One's already out of the house
No way.
with 2 daughters,
No way.
which means I'm a grandpa.
No way.
And 2 more. And so we're really enjoying life right now.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping to travel more. We're already starting to do some of that. It's really fun.
Yeah.
With some of the space that we have.
Good.
I think, I am enjoying this ride at Health Carousel. The opportunity that we have as a company and personally my opportunity there is really great. So I intend to be there quite a while. And I think, beyond that, who knows, my entrepreneurial bug might come back at some point in the future. But I think that's probably a ways off.
We never know.
I'm happy where I'm at.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks for being on this podcast and talking through just like your experiences and your journey.
Sure. It was fun.
Yeah, I really
great to
appreciate
see
it.
you.
Yeah, great to see you. Thank you. Steve.
Jesse.
Oh my God.
Oh my God, I can't believe that episode, which is so great.
It is so great. You know what I took away from this episode is, here we are, it's 2024 and AI is just like growing and full steam ahead. And what I loved is his reinforcement on how it's being used within a marketing function at a large company. And I mean, here we are, a small company trying to use it. Are we using it the right way? I don't know. And after talking with Brian, I feel like, yeah, I can take a gold star.
Yeah, what he said was so great because he had a line where he was like, AI is not going to take your job, but somebody using it will. And I think that is an important message. Like, don't be afraid of this tool that you can take advantage of. It's great.
Yeah, I think so too. And I also loved how he put an emphasis on storytelling. So at Health Carousel, they are all about telling stories and the stories that people can resonate with. So he was really into long form content. And actually after the podcast, he and I were just kind of talking about long form content. And it's really funny to me. his definition of long form content was like 2.5 minutes. And then here we are
making 10-minute videos,
making 10-minute videos. I don't know. I just found that really interesting that, you can really just like say something and everybody has their own sort of interpretation of it.
Mm-hmm. It's all a subjective art form, Jesse.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. What do you think? Would you stick around to watch a 10-minute video if it mattered to you?
If it mattered to me, absolutely. If it was good, absolutely.
Yeah, I think so too.
But that's the difficulty about it. Like the longer of a video you make, the more, it has to be good, has to look good, and it has to mean something. And you can lose that the longer you go.
Yeah, I agree. Well, just like our own podcast, right? Like I kind of hope that it meant something to people and that they actually get to this part.
Yeah.
And hear us.
I mean, if Steve and Jesse talk in the woods, but no one's around to hear it, did it really happen?
I don't know. I don't know.
I feel as if I'm fading away.
Bye, Steve.
Jesse, remember me.
Bye. Hey, guess what? You made it to the end of the podcast. That's awesome. And you know what you get for that? You get more content. Check out this content from the Resolve team, all about Rediscover Your Story podcast content right here. You click on it, you might get a treat. Find out. Steve, make it stop.